Hello. So I've been sick. I still don't have my voice completely. I was going to do a video earlier, but I didn't have a voice. So anyways, we talked about the beginning. We can talk about this curl. We talked about like the signs and symptoms that were seen in Sebastian. So let's talk about diagnosis. So everything went through his primary care doctor. So I would take him to his physical, his 3-year-old physical, and we're like, okay, his speech is still not there. He's not cognitively where he should be. So the doctor was like, okay, well, let's check his hearing first. I'm like, all right, my kid could hear, but like everything else that has to do with the doctors, they have to do steps, right? Even if you have a broken bone, they're like, okay, well, let's splint it first. And then we'll do an x-ray. And then we'll do an MRI, like all the things, right? So you start at the lowest level. So I took him to an audiology appointment, 2 of them. And at 3.5, he didn't like headphones on, right? So they wanted to have him put these headphones on. And similarly to ones that adults do, right? When you hear it, you hit the button. Like you have 2 buttons, right, left. Not doing that. And then they put him in like this soundproof room. And they're like, you can go in there with him if you want to. And I'm like, I need to. He doesn't know what to do, right? So there's like these boxes that make noise. And you're supposed to have these headphones on. And he's supposed to like look where the sound is, right? Again, didn't work. He doesn't like headphones. He didn't want to sit in the box. All he wanted to do was play with the little dog that was in the box, inside of the box. And so that was like out. And so I told the doctor, we went to another appointment. I was like, look, I think his hearing is fine. We need to do something else. So he was like, all right, cool. So we get a referral for a behavior assessment all the way in Oakland, right? So I take him there. And first of all, I am not a doctor. Okay? I don't pretend to be one, but I feel like those type of assessments set kids up for failure. So we go into this room and there's tons of toys, free access for him. There's a kitchen. There's a little car there that he can sit on. There's stuffed animals. There's food, not food, but there's like play food and all these things that he's just like grabbing up and wanting to play with because they're new and it's fun and it's a new place, right? And then the doctor comes in and starts placing demands on him, which for a lot of kids that would be difficult. I guess for children on the spectrum, it's more difficult because I would say that probably my 2 little cousins, they probably can do it. If you were like, hey, sit down, we're going to match now. They'd be like, okay, maybe a little resistant at first, but they would do it. So I just feel like for him, it set him up a little bit for failure because it was like he was playing with all these things and all of a sudden they were like, hey, Sebastian, come sit down and sort these colors. And he was like, no, because you're going from something preferred to not preferred. So for a kid, that's like absolutely not right. But anyways, the doctor was great. I see what they were doing. You know, they're testing his eye contact, not necessarily his skills, because his skills was there. When I was telling him to do it, he would do it. But that's the thing, is that it needs to be across the board with everybody. So, you know, his eye contact, his ability to stay on task, his ability to transition from preferred to non-preferred, his ability to label things, his ability to distinguish things. And it just wasn't there. I knew it wasn't going to be there because he's stubborn and he wasn't there. So we got him tested when he was a little bit over 3.5, I would say. August 10th, 2022. I will never forget that because she came back in and was just like, okay, well, I think I've seen enough. By the way, the assessment was about an hour of him, you know, throwing tantrums, her watching what kind of tantrums he had, what kind of behaviors he had, as far as like throwing himself on the ground or running into the wall, things like that. She came back in and was like, I believe that based on my observations and interactions with Sebastian, that he is on the spectrum. And I was like, all right, cool. So I asked, you know, can I have documentation of this? Boom, 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 because I knew that moving forward, I would need that for other things. I don't know what it was yet, but I knew I would need it. So yeah, it didn't really hit me until I got home. when, she gave me all these things, all these parent pamphlets, how to take care of yourself as a parent, how to handle the news, making sure that as a parent, you also have a stable foundation for you so that you can be good for your kid, like all these things. And it didn't really hit me until I got home and I'm reading through these pamphlets that I was like, ugh. And it wasn't a bad feeling. It's just, as a parent, you want the best for your child. And when you're told that your child has a disability or, a handicap, you just think about their life and how difficult it might be for them. It may or may not be. And on the paper, it was like severely autistic. And I'm like, Jesus, like, wow, okay. And so the words that are thrown out and put on paper are they're just heavy. And so it didn't hit me until I got home and I was watching him sleep and I'm reading through things and I was just like, okay, this is it. But I believe in life you have two choices, always, 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 no matter what. So adversity, you either succumb to it or you prevail, right? So I didn't see this as like a downfall. I saw it as, okay, what do I need to do to get him the most help and get him the most services, get him just going, And I will say this though, because without the diagnosis, it would have been a lot harder to get him into speech therapy or the school that he's in right now, because there's massive wait list for a lot of things. But once he had this diagnosis of, autism and, speech delay, it was like all these doors open, which was kind of weird for me. But I wasn't complaining, but it's just like the kids that are on the fence and don't necessarily have a diagnosis, like where did they fall in? Because with the diagnosis, everybody was like, yeah, here you go. Here's a referral. Here's this. Here's a list of schools. Here's a list of therapy places. Here's a list of therapists. And I'm like, wow. Because when I was having trouble with trying to just get him assessed for just anything, it was like, does he have a diagnosis? No. Okay, well, then you just need to figure something out. And that was pretty frustrating for me. But with the diagnosis, it was like, boom, everything. And so, yeah, I know that I've been talking a lot, just me. So the change up is going to be, I've asked my immediate family to write letters to Sebastian about their feelings when I told them about his diagnosis. So the next series of videos is going to be them reading their letters, because I want it to be inclusive with my family and my friends and people who are in his life and how it affected them as well and how they viewed it. Because I think that's also important for families who are going through this, to know that it takes a village to raise a child in general. It takes a massive village and strong foundation to raise a child who has any type of disability, no matter how severe it is, because it's just different. He sees the world different, and that's okay. So yeah, that was the diagnosis. And stay tuned, because the letters are coming and I'm going to write one too. Everybody's like, you need to write one too. And I'm like, okay, I will. So yeah, that was the diagnosis process. That's how I did it. That's how we handled it. And yeah, so letters are coming soon, probably in the next 2 weeks. Boom.